The stars looked cold tonight. Ambassador Park stood alone on the observation deck of the human embassy station, watching the distant lights that humans had dreamed about for thousands of years. The station orbited Neptune, far from Earth, far from the warmth of the sun, but liked it here. The silence helped him think. He was 63 years old. His hair had turned gray 10 years ago, and the lines on his face told stories of difficult negotiations and sleepless nights. He had served humanity for 40 years, first as a translator, then as a diplomat, and now as the voice of his entire species in the great halls of the Galactic Council. 43 years. That was how long humanity had been part of the Council. 43 years since the first alien ships appeared in Earth's sky and changed everything. Remembered that day. He had been 20 years old, a student studying languages at a university in Seoul. He had watched the news with millions of others as the massive vessels descended through the clouds. The aliens had not come to conquer. They had come to evaluate. The Galactic Council, they explained, was an organization of intelligent species from across the galaxy. They watched young civilizations develop, and when those civilizations reached a certain level of technology, they were invited to join. Humanity had been honored, excited, proud. That pride had faded quickly. The doors behind opened with a soft sound. He did not turn around. He knew who it was by the pattern of footsteps. "Ambassador," said Lieutenant. Her voice was careful, controlled. "A message has arrived from the Council." Finally turned. Was young, only 32, but she had already seen enough of galactic politics to lose her innocence. She held a tablet in her hands, and her face was the kind of blank that meant she was hiding strong emotions. "Show me," he said. She handed him the tablet. The holographic seal of the Galactic Council floated above the screen, glowing amber. Amber meant mandatory attendance. No choice. No excuses. Read the message slowly. His expression did not change, but inside, something cold settled in his stomach. "They are meeting about territorial redistribution," said. "The hegemony has submitted a claim." "I see that." "The claim is for the 442 system." Set down the tablet. He walked back to the window and looked at the stars again. Somewhere out there, hidden by distance and darkness, was 442. Humanity's first colony outside the solar system. The first world where humans had built cities under an alien sun. 3 million people lived there. Farmers, teachers, engineers, children who had never seen Earth but who still called themselves human. His own daughter lived there. She taught young children how to read. His granddaughter, just 2 years old, was learning to walk on that distant world. "On what grounds?" he asked quietly. "Prior survey rights." His voice was tight. "They say one of their probes passed through the system 600 years ago. They claim this gives them ownership." 600 years ago, humans had been fighting with swords. They had not even known other planets existed in that system. But the Galactic Council operated on different rules. Older species had more power. Older claims had more weight. And the hegemony was very, very old. "The probe did not stop," said. "It did not land, it did not build anything." "No, sir, it simply passed through." "And on this basis, they wish to take a world where 3 million humans have lived for 2 generations." "Yes, sir." Closed his eyes. He had fought many battles in the council chambers. He had argued for human rights, human dignity, human recognition. Sometimes he won small victories. Most times he lost. The older species looked at humanity the way adults looked at children, with amusement, with impatience, with the certainty that humans did not truly understand how the galaxy worked. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps humans did not understand. But humans understood some things very well. They understood what it meant to build a home. They understood what it meant to raise children in a place and call it yours. They understood what it meant to fight for something worth keeping. "Prepare the delegation," said. "Full formal attendance, everyone." "Sir, the council has already decided. The votes are counted before the meeting even begins. This is just. Theater, I know, turned to face her. Prepare the delegation anyway. Hesitated. She wanted to say something more he could see. She wanted to tell him that it was pointless, that nothing they did would change anything, that the council had already made up its mind. She was probably right. But she was also young, and she still believed that might have a plan. He was not sure if that belief was touching or sad. Yes, sir, she said finally. She turned and left. Remained at the window. He thought about his daughter. She had been so excited to join the colony mission 20 years ago. She had sent him pictures of the first sunrise she saw on 442b. The sky there was different, more orange, the sun a little cooler and larger than Earth's sun. She had written that it was beautiful. She had met her husband there, a man named Minu, an engineer who helped build the water treatment systems. They had married under that orange sky. They had a daughter now, little, who would grow up never knowing Earth. Unless the council took it all away. Reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph. It was old technology, a physical picture printed on paper. His wife had given it to him before she died 15 years ago. It showed their family together, himself, his wife, their daughter as a teenager. They were standing in front of their house smiling. His wife had always believed in humanity. She had believed that if humans worked hard enough and showed their worth, the galaxy would accept them. She had believed in fairness. She had died still believing. Put the photograph away. He loved his wife's memory, but he could no longer share her faith. The galaxy was not fair. The council was not just. And humanity would never be accepted, not really. They would always be the youngest, the smallest, the least important voice in the room. Unless something changed. He walked to his desk and sat down. From a locked drawer, he pulled out a data chip. It was small, barely larger than his fingernail, but it contained something important. Something he had been preparing for 3 years in secret, telling no one. He looked at it for a long moment. Then he put it in his pocket, next to the photograph. Tomorrow, he would go to the council. He would listen to them laugh. He would watch them take his daughters home with a wave of their hands. He would see 411 species vote against humanity once again. And then he would do something that no one expected. He was tired of asking for fairness. He was tired of begging for scraps at a table full of beings who had never respected humanity and never would. He was tired of watching his people suffer while the galaxy smiled and told them to be patient. 43 years of patience, 43 years of hope, 43 years of disappointment. Enough. Looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, his granddaughter was sleeping under an orange sky, dreaming whatever dreams 2-year-old children dream. She did not know that powerful beings in a distant chamber were deciding her future. She did not know that her world was being taken away. But her grandfather knew, and he had made a decision. The galaxy would remember tomorrow, not because of what the council did, but because of what humanity would do in response. For the first time in a long time, Ambassador Park smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had stopped hopping and started planning, the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. The stars looked cold tonight, but they would look different tomorrow. Everything would look different tomorrow. The great chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room Park had ever seen. It was a perfect dome, made from a crystal-like material that the oldest species had created thousands of years ago. The ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. The walls changed color based on the feelings of the beings inside, a technology so advanced that human scientists still could not understand how it worked. Today, the walls glowed a soft violet. Had learned to read these colors over the years. Violet meant condescension. It meant the council was feeling superior, amused, comfortable in their power. It meant they were looking down on someone. The human delegation entered through the main doors. walked at the front, his back straight, his face calm. Behind him came Admiral, a woman with gray hair and sharp eyes who had commanded Earth's defense forces for 15 years. Next to her was Dr. Lee, the most experienced expert on alien relations that humanity had. And behind them came 12 more representatives, soldiers, scientists, diplomats, each one chosen carefully for this moment. They wore simple black clothing, no decorations, no bright colors. Compared to the elaborate costumes of other species, they looked plain, almost poor. Knew that was how the other species saw them. Poor, primitive, a young species playing dress-up in the halls of their betters. The chamber was already full, 412 seats arranged in a massive circle, rising in levels like a stadium. Each seat belonged to a different species. Some were occupied by single beings. Others held entire groups, species that thought as one mind, or species so small that dozens of them shared a single chair. The human seat was near the bottom, at the far edge, the worst position in the room. They had to walk past hundreds of other species to reach it, and every step of that walk was designed to remind them of their place. Walked slowly, he let them watch. The High Arbiter sat at the center of the chamber, on a raised platform that rotated slowly so all species could see. The Arbiter was ancient, over 12,000 years old, and more machine than living being. Metal arms extended from its body, connected to sensors and translators, and devices that let it communicate with every species in the room. Its original form had been humanoid, but centuries of modification had made it something else entirely. The Arbiter was supposed to be neutral. It was supposed to represent fairness and justice for all council members. Had stopped believing that years ago. As the humans took their seats, the representative was already speaking. There were tall creatures with hard shells and multiple arms. This one had mandibles that clicked constantly, making a sound like mocking laughter. And as our records clearly show, there was saying, our survey probe entered the system designated by humans as exactly 612 standard years ago. This establishes prior claim under Section 447 of the Territorial Agreements. The human settlement is therefore an illegal occupation of space. Clicks of agreement came from around the chamber. The walls pulsed with satisfied violet. Dr. Lee leaned close to. The vote has already been counted, she whispered. 409 in favor of the claim. This is just a show. I know, said. Then why are we here? He did not answer. The representative continued. The hegemony is generous. We do not seek punishment for the human's mistake. We understand that young species often do not know the proper procedures. We offer to relocate the human settlers to a more suitable location, perhaps a moon somewhere or an asteroid belt, somewhere appropriate for a species of their development level. More clicking, more laughter. The walls brightened with amusement. Admiral's hands tightened on the arms of her chair. Could see the anger in her eyes, carefully controlled. She had spent her life defending humanity. She had lost friends and colleagues in border conflicts that the Council refused to acknowledge. And now she had to sit and listen to them give away a world with 3 million humans on it. The Council will now vote, the High Arbiter announced. Its mechanical voice echoed through the chamber, translated simultaneously into hundreds of languages. All in favor of recognizing territorial claim to the 442 system, please indicate. Lights appeared above each seat, green for yes, red for no, yellow for abstaining. Watched as green lights spread across the chamber like a disease, one after another after another. Species that humanity had helped, species that humanity had traded with, species that humanity had considered allies, all of them voting green. The human light glowed red, alone. 2 yellow lights appeared, the Collective and the Republic, both small species who owed humans favors. They did not dare vote against the majority, but they could not bring themselves to vote for it either. The rest was green. The motion passes, the High Arbiter said. 409 in favor, 2 abstaining, 1 opposed. The 442 system is hereby recognized as sovereign territory. Human settlers will be provided with transport vessels to relocate within. Respectfully, said, rising to his feet, I wish to address the council. Silence fell. 411 species turned to look at the small human standing in his plain black clothes at the edge of the chamber. The Arbiter's sensors focused on him. Ambassador Park, you have already cast your vote. The matter is decided. I do not wish to discuss the vote. I wish to make a statement for the record. The violet walls flickered with irritation. Could feel the mood of the chamber, annoyance, impatience, the desire to move on to more important matters. Statements for the record are permitted, the Arbiter said finally. You may proceed, please be brief. Looked around the chamber. He saw the representatives' mandibles clicking with anticipation. He saw the observers with their bored expressions. He saw the delegates looking away, unable to meet his eyes. He saw 411 species who had decided that human homes, human lives, human dreams meant nothing. He took a deep breath. 43 years ago, he began, humanity received an invitation. We were told that the Galactic Council was an organization built on peace, on cooperation, on mutual respect between all intelligent species. The violet darkened slightly. This was not what they expected. We were honored by this invitation. We accepted with hope in our hearts. We believed that we were joining a community, a family of species working together for the good of all. He paused. We were wrong. The chamber stirred. The walls shifted toward orange, confusion and growing unease. In 43 years, continued, humanity has contributed more than any other species of our age. We have provided 17% of all emergency relief missions. Our doctors have developed treatments that save lives across 38 different species. Our engineers have solved problems that older species had given up on. Our soldiers have kept peace in regions where others refused to go. His voice remained calm, steady, but it carried. And what have we received in return? Our mining rights in our own solar system were taken and given to others. Our trade routes were blocked. Our scientists were access to shared knowledge. Our requests for fair treatment were ignored. Our people were treated as servants, as children, as a species too young to matter. The representative's mandibles stopped clicking. The chamber had gone very quiet. And now, said, you vote to take our first colony, 3 million people, children who have never known another home, families who built their lives on that world. You take it because a probe, a machine that never stopped, never landed, never built anything, passed through that system 6 centuries ago. He looked at the High Arbiter. This is not justice. This is not cooperation. This is not peace. His voice dropped lower. This is theft, and humanity will no longer participate in it. The orange walls were shifting toward red. Alarm, uncertainty, surprise. Reached into his pocket and pulled out the data chip he had carried from Neptune. Small and simple, it looked like nothing, but it contained everything. He placed it on the podium in front of him. This contains humanity's formal notice of withdrawal from the Galactic Council, he said. Effective immediately. All treaties, agreements, and obligations are terminated as of this moment. For 3 heartbeats, there was absolute silence. Then the chamber exploded into chaos. The chaos was unlike anything the Great Chamber had seen in centuries. Species that had not spoken to each other in thousands of years were suddenly shouting across the room. The walls flashed through colors so quickly that they became almost white. A storm of emotions from 411 different species, all feeling shock at the same moment. The High Arbiter raised its mechanical arms, broadcasting a signal for silence. It took almost 3 minutes for the chamber to calm down enough for anyone to speak. Ambassador Park, the Arbiter said, its translated voice carrying a note that might have been disbelief. You cannot be serious. In 12,000 years of council history, no species has ever voluntarily withdrawn. Then humanity will be the first, replied. He remained standing, his hands at his sides, his face showing nothing. Behind him, his delegation sat in perfect stillness. Admiral Dr. Lee, all 12 representatives, they had known this was coming. They had prepared for this moment. The representative pushed forward, its multiple arms waving. This is absurd. This is theater. The humans are trying to pressure us into changing our vote. They cannot actually leave. The economic consequences alone would destroy them. Perhaps, said, that is our choice to make. Choice? The clicked its mandibles in what passed for a laugh. Humans have no choice. You need our technology. You need our trade routes. You need our protection. Without the Council, you are nothing. A small species on the edge of the galaxy, surrounded by dangers you cannot even understand. Turn to face the directly. You are right, he said. We do need many things, but we have learned over 43 years that need does not create friendship. It creates slavery. The chamber stirred again. The walls pulsed with uncomfortable colors. Every year, continued, humanity asks for fair treatment. Every year we are told to wait, to be patient, to prove ourselves. We have been proving ourselves for 43 years. We have saved lives, built technology, kept peace. And still we are told we are too young, too primitive, too insignificant to deserve respect. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, or equivalent organs of as many species as he could. When will it be enough? When will humanity have proven itself? Another 40 years, another 100, another 1,000, he shook his head slowly. The answer is never. We understand that now. No matter what we do, no matter what we achieve, we will always be the youngest species in this room. We will always be the ones who are told to sit down, be quiet, and accept whatever scraps the older species decide to give us. An observer raised a limb to speak. It was a high-ranking official, one of the Arbiter's advisors. Ambassador, please, let us discuss this rationally. The Council offers many benefits to member species. Protection, trade, access to technology. If you leave, you lose all of these things. Your people will suffer. Our people are already suffering, said. You just voted to take their homes. 3 million people will be forced to leave the world they built with their own hands. Children will lose the only sky they have ever known. And for what? Because a machine flew past 600 years ago. He turned back to the full chamber. You speak of benefits. Let me speak of costs. In the past 40 years, the Council has taken 63% of our mining claims in our own solar system. Trade routes that once came to Earth have been redirected to favor older species. Our requests to join research programs are not because we lack ability, but because young species might misuse advanced knowledge. Our colonies are taxed at 3 times the rate of established species. Our ships are searched at every checkpoint while others pass freely. His voice rose slightly, though it remained controlled. We have paid for membership in this council not with money but with dignity. We have smiled while being insulted. We have bowed while being robbed. We have thanked you for opportunities that were actually traps. No more. The representative made a sound of disgust. Pretty words from a dying species. When you leave this chamber, you leave behind everything that protects you. The hegemony will take 442 regardless of your theatrical gesture. And without council defense agreements, who will stop us? Your pathetic little fleet. Admiral stood up. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. The United Earth Defense Force may be small by your standards, but we have defended our territory for 43 years against pirates, raiders, and hostile species that the Council refused to acknowledge. We are not as helpless as you believe. You are exactly as helpless as we believe, they replied. Your largest warship is smaller than our standard patrol vessel. Your technology is generations behind ours. If we wanted to destroy every human world in the galaxy, we could do it in a week. Then why haven't you? The question came from Dr. Lee. She had risen to stand beside the Admiral, her eyes fixed on the representative. If humanity is so weak, so insignificant, so easy to destroy, why are we still here? Why did the Council invite us to join in the first place? Why have older species been watching us for centuries? The chamber went quiet again. The walls flickered with uncertain colors. I will tell you why, Dr. Lee continued. Because humanity has something that frightens you, not our ships, not our weapons, something else. Something you have been trying to understand since you first discovered us. She looked around the room. Humans grow, humans change, humans adapt. In 43 years, we have gone from a single planet to colonies across 3 star systems. We have developed technology that your scientists said was impossible. We have survived disasters that should have destroyed us. And we keep going. We keep building. We keep reaching. The mandibles clicked nervously. This is exaggeration, propaganda. Is it? Dr. Lee smiled. It was not a friendly smile. 100 years ago, we had never left our own planet. Now we are here, standing in the center of galactic civilization, telling the oldest powers in the universe that we refuse to be their servants anymore. What will we be in another 100 years? Another 1,000? She sat down. The chamber was silent. Ambassador Park looked at the High Arbiter. The ancient machine sensors were focused entirely on him, analyzing, calculating, trying to understand what was happening. Humanity's withdrawal is effective immediately, said. We will remove our representatives from all council facilities. We will close our embassies. We will terminate all treaty obligations. He picked up the data chip from the podium. We are not asking for permission. We are not negotiating. We are informing you of our decision. He paused. And we are giving you a warning. The walls pulsed with sudden alarm. The 442 system belongs to humanity. Our people built that world. Our children were born there. If any species attempts to take it by force, his voice went very quiet, they will discover that humans do not surrender what is ours. He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, Admiral Rose, then Dr. Lee. Then, one by one, every human in the chamber stood and followed their ambassador toward the doors. The representative called after them. You cannot threaten the council. This is madness. Where will you go? What will you do? Did not stop. He did not look back. But as he passed through the great doors, he answered. We will do what humans have always done. We will survive. We will grow. And we will remember. The doors closed behind the human delegation. In the great chamber, 411 species sat in stunned silence. The walls had turned a color that none of them had ever seen before. The color of fear. The corridors of the council station were designed to impress. High ceilings carved from living crystal, floors that adjusted their texture to match each species' walking needs. Lights that shifted to accommodate different visual spectrums. Every detail was meant to show the power and sophistication of galactic civilization. Ambassador Park saw none of it. He walked quickly, his delegation following behind him in perfect formation. They passed startled aliens, diplomats, workers, visitors who had heard the commotion from the chamber and came to see what had happened, ignored them all. Admiral fell into step beside him. Sir, they are right about one thing. Our fleet cannot defend 442 against a full hegemony assault. We have 37 combat vessels in that system. They have hundreds. I know. If they attack before we can evacuate. They won't attack immediately. His voice was calm. The council will debate. They will make demands. They will give us time to reconsider, to apologize, to come crawling back. That is how they operate. They expect us to break. And when we don't, did not answer. They had reached the docking bay where the human transport waited. It was a small ship compared to the massive vessels of other species, functional, efficient, undecorated, like the humans themselves. Dr. Lee caught up to them. Ambassador, I'm receiving messages from 17 different species requesting private meetings. They want to discuss trade alternatives. They are asking if we would consider a bilateral defense agreement. Even the Tell them all the same thing. Humanity is not interested in side deals while we are still part of the Council. We are leaving. Completely. Any species that wants to talk to us can do so after we have established our independence. Sir, some of these offers could be very valuable. That is exactly why we cannot accept them. Stopped at the ship's entrance and turned to face his delegation. The Council's power comes from making every species dependent on them, trade agreements that require Council approval, defense treaties that only work if you stay a member, technology sharing that can be revoked at any time. If we accept special deals now, we become trapped in a different kind of cage. He looked at each of them in turn. We are leaving because the system is broken, not because we want a better position within the broken system. We want something new, something built on actual fairness, not the pretend fairness that the Council offers. Lieutenant stepped forward. She had been quiet since they left the chamber, but now she spoke. Ambassador, what happens to the colonists, the 3 million people on? They will be evacuated. To where? Everywhere. Allowed himself a small smile. Did you think we had no plan, Lieutenant? That I stood up in the Council chamber and announced our withdrawal on impulse? He pulled out a second data chip, the one he had kept hidden, the one he had not shown to anyone. For 3 years, humanity has been preparing for this moment. New colony ships, built in secret facilities in the outer solar system. Hidden bases on moons and asteroids that the Council never discovered. Supply caches positioned along routes that bypass all Council checkpoints. Admiral's eyes widened. Sir, I oversee military intelligence. I knew nothing about this. No one knew, not military intelligence, not the civilian government, not even the president until last month. The expression was serious. The Council has spies in every human organization. Every message we send through normal channels is monitored. Every secret we share is eventually discovered. This plan could only survive if no one knew about it. He handed the chip to Admiral. This contains everything. Coordinates, schedules, contact protocols. The evacuation of has already begun. Ships started moving 12 hours ago, before we even arrived at the Council. Dr. Lee shook her head slowly. 3 million people. You evacuated 3 million people without anyone noticing. Not evacuated, relocated. There is a difference. Began walking up the ramp into the ship. Evacuation is running away. Relocation is moving to a better position. The others followed him aboard. The ship's interior was simple, rows of seats, basic life support, nothing extra. Humans had learned to do without luxuries. As they strapped in for departure, a young officer named spoke up. He had lost his older brother in a border conflict 3 years ago, a conflict that the Council had refused to even acknowledge. His voice was thick with emotion. Ambassador, I have to ask, in the chamber you said humanity would remember. What did you mean? Was quiet for a moment. The ship began to move, sliding out of the docking bay and into open space. Through the small windows, they could see the massive Council station shrinking behind them, a monument to 12,000 years of galactic civilization. There is an old human saying, finally answered. Forgive your enemies but never forget their names. The Council has spent 43 years teaching humanity our place. They have shown us exactly how they treat younger species. They have demonstrated that fairness is a lie, that cooperation is a trap, and that power is the only thing that matters. He looked out at the stars. We will remember every lesson, every insult, every betrayal, not because we want revenge. Revenge is for the weak. We will remember because knowledge is power. They have taught us what the galaxy really is. Now we will use that knowledge to build something better. The ship accelerated, heading toward the relay gate that would take them home. Behind them, emergency meetings were already being called. The council was in crisis mode. Nothing like this had ever happened before. Commander O, a grizzled officer who had spent 15 years on the frontier, spoke from his seat. "They will come for us. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but eventually they will decide that letting humanity go is too dangerous. They will try to bring us back by force." "Yes," agreed, "they will." "And what will we do?" Turned to look at his people. These 12 representatives, and through them, the 8 billion humans who called Earth home, the 3 million on, the hundreds of thousands scattered across stations and outposts throughout human space, all of them waiting to hear what would happen next. "We will show them something they have never seen before," he said. "A species that refuses to be controlled, a species that would rather die free than live as servants, a species that—" He stopped. Through the window something was visible, something impossible. The relay gate ahead was activating, but not for their ship. Something else was coming through. Ships, dozens of them, then hundreds. Human ships. They emerged from the gate in perfect formation, spreading out across space like a flower blooming. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers. Ships that the Council had never seen before, built in secret facilities that even had not known about. Admiral stood up, her face pale with shock. "That's not possible. We don't have ships like those. We've never had ships like those." A communication signal came through. A young voice, female, calm and professional. "Ambassador Park, this is Captain of the UEDF Perseverance. We received word that you might need an escort home. The First Fleet is at your service." Stared at the ships outside. There were so many. Where had they come from? How had they been built without anyone knowing? Then he understood. The plan had been bigger than even he knew. The secret preparations had gone deeper than anyone could have imagined. Someone, many someones, had been planning for this day for a very long time. Humanity had not just been preparing to leave the Council. Humanity had been preparing to survive. "Captain," said slowly, "how many ships are in this fleet?" There was a pause, then the young captain replied, "Ambassador, this is only the First Fleet. There are 4 more." The human delegation sat in stunned silence. Outside, the ships of the First Fleet formed up around their small transport, an honor guard of steel and fire. And somewhere far away, in the great chamber of the Galactic Council, the walls had not stopped glowing with the color of fear. They were only just beginning to understand. 3 weeks passed. The galaxy held its breath. In the great chamber, emergency sessions continued day and night. The High Arbiter had not rested since the humans walked out. Species that had ignored each other for centuries were now forced to talk, to plan, to decide what to do about the small species that had dared to say no. The hegemony demanded action. They had been embarrassed in front of the entire Council, and their pride would not allow them to let it pass. On the 21st day after humanity's withdrawal, they assembled a fleet. 47 warships jumped to the 442 system. Each one was massive, kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could turn planets into ash. The hegemony had conquered dozens of species with ships like these. They expected the same result here. What they found instead was silence. The human colony was empty. Cities stood abandoned, their lights still on, their streets deserted. Farms lay quiet, crops still growing in the fields with no one to harvest them. Schools, hospitals, homes, all left behind as if the people had simply vanished in the middle of their daily lives. The commander, a warrior named who had led successful invasions against 4 different species, did not understand. Where had they gone? 3 million humans could not simply disappear. There should have been refugee ships, evacuation convoys, some sign of where they had fled. There was nothing. Then his sensors detected something. A single human ship floating alone in the space where the fleet had arrived. It was small, barely larger than a shuttle, and it carried no weapons. It was broadcasting a message on all frequencies. "Fleet, this is Captain of the Earth vessel Perseverance. Please hold your position. I have a message for the Galactic Council." His mandibles clicked with contempt. One tiny ship against 47 warships. The humans truly were mad. "Human vessel," he transmitted, "you are in violation of Council territorial law. This system belongs to the hegemony. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." "Understood," the human captain replied. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. "Before you destroy us, I ask that you listen to our message. It will only take a moment. Then you may do as you wish." Considered. There was no danger here. One ship could do nothing against his fleet, and the Council was watching. Every relay in the galaxy was carrying this moment live to billions of beings. Let them see how the hegemony dealt with those who them. "Speak your message, human. Make it quick." There was a brief pause. Then Captain's voice returned, and this time it was not just going to it was going everywhere. Every species, every world, every being with access to a communication device. For 43 years, humanity asked for nothing but fairness. We joined the Galactic Council in good faith. We contributed. We cooperated. We followed every rule, obeyed every law, respected every tradition. We believed that if we proved ourselves worthy, we would be treated as equals. On Earth, in a small apartment in the city of, an old man named Han watched the broadcast on his wall screen. He was 83 years old. He remembered when the aliens first came. He remembered the hope that his generation had felt, the belief that humanity was joining something wonderful. He also remembered the disappointment that followed. Decade after decade of being told to wait, to be patient, to accept less than they deserved. Now he watched as a young woman spoke for all of them. "We were wrong to believe in fairness," Captain continued. "The Galactic Council does not reward contribution. It does not respect cooperation. It does not recognize equals. It only respects power. It only fears strength." She paused. "So we stopped asking. We stopped hopping. We stopped believing that if we just tried harder, just waited longer, just proved ourselves more, things would change. Instead, we prepared. On its largest moon, in an underground shelter that had been built in secret over 15 years, 3 million people listened to the broadcast. They had been evacuated from their homes just days before they arrived. They had left everything behind, their houses, their farms, their memories, to hide in the darkness beneath the surface. Among them was a young mother named Park, daughter of Ambassador Park. She held her 2-year-old daughter in her arms. The little girl did not understand what was happening. She did not know that powerful beings wanted to take her home. She only knew that her mother was holding her tightly and that the adults around her were crying. "Mommy," said, "why is everyone sad?" Looked at her daughter. She thought about the world outside, the orange sky, the gentle sunlight, the house where had taken her first steps. All gone now. All taken away by beings who did not even see humans as people. "Because we lost something important," whispered, "but we are going to get it back." In space, Captain was still speaking. "The Council taught us that power is all that matters. They taught us that the galaxy respects strength and despises weakness. They taught us that there is no fairness, no justice, no mercy for those who cannot defend themselves." Her voice dropped lower. "Consider us educated." The commander opened his mouth to respond, and then stopped. Something was happening. Space itself seemed to twist, to fold, to bend in ways that physics said was impossible. Light from distant stars flickered and danced. The fleet's sensors screamed warnings as energy readings went off every scale. Behind the small human ship, reality opened. Ships emerged, human ships, not dozens, not hundreds. Thousands. They poured through the opening in space like water through a broken dam. Battleships the size of small moons. Carriers launching swarms of fighters. destroyers moving in perfect coordination, ships of designs that no one had ever seen before, built with technologies that the Council's oldest scientists said could not exist. Commander stared at his sensor displays. His fleet was surrounded, outmatched. The humans had more firepower in this single force than the entire hegemony. And there were 5 fleets like this scattered across human space. How, he managed to say, how is this possible? Captain's voice came through clearly. While you were laughing at us in your council chambers, we were building. While you were redistributing our territory, we were growing. While you were patting yourselves on your backs for keeping the young species in their place, we were preparing for the day when we would no longer need your approval. She paused, and when she spoke again, there was something in her voice that made blood run cold. You taught us that the galaxy only respects strength. You wanted us to learn our place. Well, we learned it. This is our place. This is our space. And if anyone wants to take it from us. The human fleet shifted, weapons systems powering up, thousands of guns turning toward the ships. They are welcome to try. Silence. Across the galaxy, 411 species watched in shock. The High Arbiter's sensors flickered with confusion. The crystal walls of the great chamber had turned a color that no living being could remember seeing before. Commander looked at his fleet, then at the human armada surrounding them. The math was simple. If they fought, they would die, all of them, in minutes. Fleet, he said slowly, stand down, all weapons offline. The human ships did not fire. We are withdrawing from the system, continued. His voice was hollow. We acknowledge human territorial sovereignty over. Captain nodded, though no one could see it. A wise decision, Commander. You may leave in peace. We hold no hatred for the people, only for a system that allowed them to believe they could take what is ours without consequence. The fleet began to move, retreating through the jump point that had brought them. 47 warships that had come to conquer, leaving in defeat without firing a single shot. As they left, his final message played across every screen in the galaxy. Humanity is not requesting membership in the Council. We are not asking for territory. We are not begging for respect. We are simply informing the galaxy that what is ours will remain ours. Any species that wishes to discuss trade, cooperation, or friendship knows where to find us. We welcome all who come in peace. She paused one last time. But to any who come with hostile intent, remember this day. Remember that we tried peace first. We tried patience. We tried hope. And when those failed, we tried something else. The broadcast ended. In the underground shelter on Moon, 3 million humans began to cheer. Tears flowed freely. Strangers embraced strangers. Children who did not understand why the adults were so happy laughed anyway, caught up in the joy. Park held her daughter close and wept. We get to go home, baby, she whispered. We get to go home. Oldhand sat alone in his apartment, watching the human fleet spread across his screen like a field of stars. He thought about his whole life, the hope, the disappointment, the long years of waiting. He thought about all the humans who had lived and died believing that someday things would be different. Someday had finally come. He closed his eyes and smiled. On the observation deck of the flagship Perseverance, Captain stood alone, looking at the empty space where the fleet had been. She was 29 years old. She had been born in space, raised between stars, trained for a war that everyone hoped would never come. Today, war had been avoided, but she knew it was not over. The Council would not simply accept humanity's independence. There would be more tests, more challenges, more enemies who believed that the young species could be brought to heel. But not today. Today, humanity had stood up. Today, humanity had refused to kneel. And the galaxy would never be the same. Thousands of light years away, Ambassador Park watched the broadcast from his office on the Neptune station. He had not slept in 3 days. He had not smiled in 3 weeks. He was smiling now. On his desk sat the photograph of his family, himself, his wife, their daughter. The picture had been taken so long ago in a different world, a different time. His wife had believed in humanity. She had believed that someday the galaxy would see them as equals. "You were right," he whispered to the photograph. "It just took a little longer than we expected." Outside his window, the stars no longer looked cold. They looked like home. The end.